Joining me now is Royal Editor for the Daily Mirror, Russell Myers. Russell, welcome to Australia. You are finally here ahead of the King's visit. Now, the King, he's also arriving this week, and despite health concerns, he's still got plenty on his schedule. What are you expecting?
Well, first and foremost, thanks, Cara. I would have loved to join you, but literally just run off the plane to get on the show today. But no, listen, it's going to be a packed schedule for the King and Queen. They are arriving on Friday evening and touching down in Sydney. It's going to be a day off to kind of acclimatise, I suppose, on the Saturday. But from the Sunday, it gets right down to business. There's going to be, quite a big event, I suppose. We're expecting big crowds at the Sydney Opera House. He's going to be having a barbecue a little bit later in the week with the New South Wales Premier. And we're going to be seeing, a bit of community aspect from the King, because he's going to be meeting Aboriginal elders. He's also going to be possibly accompanying the Queen to a domestic violence charity as well. So very much in keeping with the core elements of their work. I'm sure the King is going to be very keen to be discussing the climate in Australia and the world as well, and certainly using his cancer diagnosis as well to try and highlight the cause of melanoma. Of course, it is an issue here in Australia, and he's going to be meeting a couple of the Australians of the Year, some amazing professors who are doing great work in the country. So very much in keeping with the core themes of the King and Queen this week, but certainly hoping to meet as many of Australians as possible.
Now, this is the first long-distance trip for Charles as King. He spent a lot of time in Australia over the years. We know he's travelling with a couple of doctors, just in order for him to be able to make this trip. So how important is this visit to him personally?
Well, it's hugely important. I mean, that goes without saying. It's something that the King wanted to do almost immediately after taking the top job, as it were. I mean, he's been in the role a couple of years now, but, it's been a bit of topsy-turvy time. Of course it has, notwithstanding his own health ailments. He was, of course, in hospital at the beginning of the year for that prostate operation. Then his cancer diagnosis has really put best laid plans off track. But, it's about organising these things with the governments of the day, not just the UK, but the Australians as well. And Charles is very, very keen to come to Australia. Indeed, we've spoken ourselves, haven't we, about the unique relationship between the Brits and the Aussies, and the King really wants to foster that as well. So I think that he'll be very, very keen to come down under. I know that he's very much looking forward to it. The people I've spoken to at the palace have said he's excited. The Queen is excited to come down here and to meet as many people as possible.
And meanwhile, in the UK, there's been a beautiful surprise visit by Princess Katherine and Prince William to Southport to visit the families of the three young girls who were tragically killed at their dance class earlier in the year. The King has also recently visited. I think it really shows the gravity of that tragedy and how much it shocked the nation.
Well, certainly not just the nation, but the world, Cara. I mean, of course, your viewers will be familiar with the tragedy that unfolded in Southport in the northwest of England, where three young girls were murdered at a Taylor Swift-themed dance concert. And certainly, I think this is when the royal family really comes into play. The King and the Prince and Princess of Wales were very, very keen to reach out to the community to make sure that they weren't forgotten. This is a community that has been absolutely devastated by this heinous crime. And certainly they are really reeling from it. A community left in utter shock, disbelief, but have really come together. We saw when the King went to Southport to speak to locals, to really stand side by side with them and say, you have not been forgotten. And I think it's very telling that it was the Princess of Wales's first official public engagement. Of course, we had seen her during the summer at the King's, trooping the colour, his birthday celebrations, and at Wimbledon, of course. But this was the first real public engagement alongside Prince William. And like I said, I think it was very apt that she chose to go to Southport because and this is a community that has been in all of our thoughts throughout the country and the world, and will continue to need a lot of support going forward.
Absolutely. We've got a short Sky News package just here on that visit.
It feels like a long time since we've seen them out like this, and we hadn't expected the princess. But Southport was a community visit they both had personally wanted to make. Away from the cameras, they just had private meetings with the families of the 3 young girls who died in the summer. The princess asked by one paramedic how they were doing.
They're okay. They're managing it differently. All the families are so different, and individually too, they're managing it and processing.
We were told they spent half an hour each with the parents of 6-year-old BB King, 7-year-old Elsie Stankham and 9-year-old Alice Da Silva Aguirre, who all died after the knife attack at the Taylor Swift dance event. At the time, the Prince and Princess said it was unimaginable what had happened. It hit home even more because he'd taken George and Charlotte to one of Taylor Swift's UK concerts.
Excellent of the Prince and Princess of Wales to prioritise that visit. Now, while the King, Russell, is visiting Australia, and despite his health, he is making this very long trip, it's been reported this week that he won't be attending the COP summit. Now, that's quite the development, given he usually attends.
Well, it is, certainly, and it's a story we broke last week in the Mirror because, again, I think speaking to people very close to Charles, his diary has had to be very, very carefully managed. Of course, he's been super keen to get back to work as soon as possible. He's running a bit of a different schedule these days. Of course, he had been up in Scotland trying to get a bit of R&R before coming to Australia and preparing for the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting in Samoa. And it's a packed schedule. You know, just the travel alone is quite a lot to deal with, especially considering he's still having this cancer treatment. But COP29 is going to be in Baku, Azerbaijan next month. It's a meeting of world leaders, of course, the UN Climate Change Conference that Charles has spoken to before. Very much welcome to the event. And organisers had been hoping that he was going to make it. But you look at the schedule here in Australia, then you've got Samoa, then he's got to get back for, of course, the Remembrance Weekend set of events in the UK. And then I think it would have been a bit too much. So I think on doctor's orders, it's been explained to me that they've got to save him from himself sometimes. So I think probably a wise decision for the King to sit this one out sometimes.
Probably. And Russell, just very quickly, I've only got about 30 seconds left. This week, a new rendering of the coat of arms has been unveiled. What are the notable changes?
Well, of course, we're in a new sort of era, aren't we? It is His Majesty's government, and the coat of arms have stayed very much the same since Queen Victoria was on the throne in 1837. But there's been some subtle changes. You can see the two images side by side. Of course, we've got the lion still representing England, the unicorn representing Scotland, and so some subtle changes on the motto as well. But a welcome addition, and sort of a welcome addition to this new era for the King.
An update is always a good thing. Russell Myers, thank you for joining us.